That's just Sprite. Want me some, please?
Yeah. You want to put it on right? You want to see it? No.
Further.
But I know soon when I'm get ready.
I'll tell you the time.
You gonna do 35 minutes yet?
La, not that long.
Okay. Still Q&A, right?
Further. We'll mop up what's left. Further, go ahead.
Still Q&A?
So dealing with like the slaughtering of an animal, you have to like drain all the blood. Is it like mandatory to hang the animal upside down?
So now you want me to put it on?
Don't drain it like this and all the blood doesn't come out. Is this meat particularly haram? Does that make this
broadcasting?
If you don't drain the blood like how?
There he is. You see him, right?
Bismillah. Question says, with regards to slaughtering animals, the halal way, zabiha way, is it a condition that all of the blood be drained from the animal? The ulama of Islam, they say that there are conditions for slaughtering, and from those conditions, qat'u ma yajibu qat'uhu, is to cut and to sever that which must be cut and severed. That which must be cut and severed. So we have different things here: carotids, esophagus, windpipe, etc. Some people say jugular, but that's not necessarily correct. On the side, it's not necessarily what's in front. Okay? Al-Muhim is once whatever has to be cut is cut, the animal is now halal. And obviously there's going to be blood that's going to pour forth. And you should wait for that blood to finish pouring forth. Because blood which pours forth is haram. This is mentioned in the Quran al-Karim. Dama masfuha. Blood which squirts and pours forth. Al-Muhim is once you cut that, the animal is now what? Halal. You can't eat pouring blood. So you obviously have to wait until it does what? Pours out. As far as obligatory to hang it up and to wait 10 minutes and 15 minutes for every single ounce and drop of blood to drip out, that's something I have never come across from the kalam of the ulama. Rather they say to cut which what? Must be cut. To cut which what? Must be cut. And obviously 1 plus 1, the 2, the equation to that is the blood that pours forth is unlawful to eat. And obviously a Muslim is not going to eat raw meat to that extent. You see what I'm saying to you? So you're going to wait for some time for the what? Let alone for the body to stop moving. And ulama understand, they also say from being gentle with the animal is not to remove its head until it is totally motionless. And all nerves or life or whatever is totally void from the animal. But what's important is the what? Cutting. That's the most important thing, is the what? The cutting. If the cut is done properly, the blood is going to spill forth within seconds. Within what? Within seconds. It doesn't take all of that integral blood to come out, except for what? 30 seconds, if that? If that. If it's a proper cut. And Allah knows best. It's a detailed discussion on slaughtering in light of Quran and Sunnah. And Allah knows best. That's in brief.
Adhan from Central VA. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. What is the ruling on working a job where the very nature of the job involves touching opposite gender, such as EMT or someone who takes fingerprints?
Question regarding having a job in which the nature of the job is touching the opposite gender, such as EMT or taking fingerprints, etc. One way of looking at it is the nature of the job, like you just explained. It's to touch the opposite gender. Even if it's not a guarantee that the one who calls the ambulance is going to be a female, but it's a big possibility. So from one aspect, you know that you're coming in direct contact with another person whom you're not supposed to come into direct contact with. So as if you know you're doing it. That's one thing. But to say that the job is haram, and there's no guarantee that it's going to be the opposite gender, or you can touch them if you have to have a barrier, or another person can touch them, or maybe a necessity for Muslims to be in these occupations. And the Muslims cannot be totally removed from every single aspect, Shaykh Uthman, Hayakallah, every single aspect of society. And that's similar to the concept of the military. Alright, now get into that. Excuse me.
This the 4th of this month or the 11th? Which one you choose to
Allahu
come?
Akbar.
Give the khutbah here.
Subhanallah.
The 4th of January and the 11th.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
From now, let me know.
طيب.
4th or the 11th.
طيب. نستخير الله شيخ.
No istikhara.
We have to شيخ. It has to be istikhara. Inshallah. Abshir شيخ. Abshir.
When are you going to tell me?
Abshir. Very soon. I have to speak with Khalil.
Okay, Khalil, let me know please. Salatul Fajr.
Pick up your phone أخي.
Salatul Fajr, please. So that I can put his name.
طيب. المهم. The concept of the military. Now one obviously is going to say it's haram to join the military. You can't. طيب. Okay, no problem. And another person, not me, but another person could argue, and a person could say that the Muslims have to have some type of presence in that establishment. And if the Muslims have no presence in the establishment, when there's contact between the military and Muslims, things are going to be far worse. Things are going to be what? Far worse, in which they're going to have no knowledge, no experience, no dealings, nothing about Islam. And that could lead to more disaster. So if there's a Muslim who works in EMT, and he gives basic, simple dawah, he doesn't be a scholar, basic, simple dawah. Listen, we take off our shoes when we go to someone's house. Or you shouldn't look at his wife like this, or you care that, or basic. There lies no doubt that's going to make the interaction between EMT, police officers, firefighters, the Muslims far smoother. Far smoother. And whether we like it or not, we live in this country. Whether we like it or not, we're born and raised in this country. And whether we like it or not, many of us, if not most of us, we're going to die in this country. Most of us. We don't know the qadr of Allah, but Allah gives us clear signs. Allah teaches us things. Average person is going to live in his whole life in the United States. You see what I'm saying to you? So the concept of the Muslims removing themselves from every formal establishment. You cannot be a police officer, haram. You can't be in the military, haram. You can't be EMT, haram. You can't work in this, haram. You can't join politics, haram. That will lead to the total isolation of the Muslims. And if this total isolation of the Muslims, what will happen when there is a necessary encounter between government, police, firefighters, military, and Muslims? It's going to be what? Everyone understand this wisdom? So this is one of the reasons why some of these issues cannot be answered so simply. Whether it's the military or EMT. You're going to join the military, you're going to touch a woman's hand, you're going to touch a woman, so on and so forth. Helping people out, rescuing them, saving them. That may be obligatory. If that's the case, you can't be a doctor. If that's the case, you can't be a dentist. If that's the case, you can't be a plumber because you're going to do this. And it's all, the whole system is what? Connected, yani? So we have to be mindful of this. And this is one of the reasons why I choose to answer certain questions in certain ways. Whether it's the military or what? Other than that. Even it may be haram to join the military. But it's some of the reasons why I choose to answer what? With caution. And not having a double standard or a contradictory principle. Such as the taxes. Such as the taxes. So it's obligatory to pay taxes. Is it? Do you have to live here? What are you paying taxes on? Is it obligatory for you to buy this and to purchase this? So we have to be mindful. We have to be what? We have to be very mindful of this. So Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Yani at the end of the day, my humble opinion, and I'll say it again, is that the Muslims cannot be removed from every single aspect of life in the United States. They cannot just be totally isolated and cut off. And Allah knows best.
Somebody does get caught up in that. What would you tell them to advise? Like they already caught up with you.
If a person is already caught up, a person is an EMT or fingerprints, etc., fear Allah to the best of your ability. Fear Allah to the best of your ability. If you have to get a different profession, get a different profession. If you're going to keep that profession, then try your best to minimize the contact. Try your best, whether it's wearing gloves, you handle it. You may work at a store, a restaurant, a supermarket. You tell your co-workers, can you stack the alcohol out for me? And I'll work extra for you. You take care of the pork. I'll work on Christmas, no problem. I'll give you all of the holidays. You can go drink and do whatever you want, but you just look out for me. Wisdom, hikmah. And many non-Muslims, they'll be what? Extremely. I got all my holidays, he's going to take it from me? Man, you want to go to Jummah? You got it. You want me to go touch this woman? Whatever. You do whatever you need to do. As long as I can what? Drink and have my fun on Christmas or New Year's. So you have to use hikmah. And Allah knows best. Obviously seek Allah's forgiveness and abundance. And give a lot of sadaqah and give extra zakat. The ulama of Islam, they mention that you should always give more than what's necessary from your zakat. Because there's no job that is 101% all the time permissible. Even if the job itself is permissible. But talking with people, interacting with people, what huh? And Allah knows best.
And this was from Toronto, Canada. Where do you make dua in salah? Is it also true that raising the hands up to make dua after every followed salah has no basis in Allah reward?
Question comes from Canada, you said? Toronto, Canada. Where do you make dua in the salah? And is it true that raising the hands after the salah has no basis? The general answer is that you make dua in the entire prayer. The whole prayer from beginning to end is dua. As you praying to Allah. But praying to Allah physically. Dua, ibadah. You're standing, you're sitting, you're bowing, that's dua. You're saying to Allah with your language, your body language, that you need Him and you want His mercy and His forgiveness, etc. So that's the general answer. As far as the specific answer, yani dua mas'ala, asking Allah for something specifically, there are different places, according to the authentic sunnah. One of the best places to make dua in the salah is after the tashahhud, before the taslim. After the tashahhud, before the taslim. After you finish your tashahhud, tahiyyatu lillah, before you make the salam, pray to Allah and ask Allah for whatever you want and need of the good of this life and or the hereafter. And some of the ulama, obviously, as we said, even making it in your own language. Everyone understand this? And this is one of the reasons why some of the ulama of Islam say that making the dua right after the salam, raising your hands, shouldn't be done. And it's either mukhalafa or bid'ah. But for sure, it has no authentic basis. And that's because a person takes the preferred place and time of dua and inverts it. He switches it. The Prophet ﷺ says, ثُمَّ يَتَخَيَّرْ مِنَ الدُّعَاءِ أَعْجَبَهُ إِلَيْهِ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. ثُمَّ يَتَخَيَّرْ مِنَ الْمَسْأَلَةِ أَعْجَبَهَا إِلَيْهِ. He says, after a person makes the tashahhud, and says the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ, and seeks refuge in Allah Azza wa Jal from the four things, etc., then make the fondest dua that you possibly can think of. So that is the prime place of praying in your salah, is after the tashahhud, before the taslim. Also in the sujood, the Prophet ﷺ says, أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ وَهُوَ سَاجِدٌ. The closest time in which the servant is to Allah is when he's making prostration. So make an abundance of supplication. It's a faqaminun, it's hariyun. It's a big possibility for a person's dua being accepted and answered in the sujood. So the sujood and the end of the tashahhud before the taslim, these are two very good places to make dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla for asking what you want and need. As far as raising the hands after the salah, then the sunnah is to give the salam and to say astaghfirullah 3 times, or to say Allahu Akbar, and to say Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. To say subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, to make the sunnah supplications. Then if you choose to make dua, make dua. But salamming out, raising your hands immediately, is something which is not the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. To salam out and stand up and make the rak'ah immediately, that's not the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So that's what should be done. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
This was UW from London, UK. Ayakallah wa'alam. If you're in salah and your child pulls on your hijab or reveals a part of you, is the salah invalid? Can you just cover back up and continue?
Question regarding if a person is offering the salah and a young child pulls on their hijab and some of their awrah and the salah is exposed. What should they do? Make the prayer up or continue? Cover it up, cover it up immediately. And this is one of the instances, according to what the ulama say, in which is obligatory to move in the prayer, in which you must move in the salah. You have to make harakah in the salah. So bid'inai ta'ala, as long as it's not based off of your will or your wish, and you fix it immediately, inshallah ta'ala, there's nothing wrong with your salah, bi'idhnillah. And Allah knows best. That's in brief. Fadl akhi.
Oh, sorry.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
You know, like in this society, you have something they call civic duty. You know, the jury duty, volunteering, all this kind of stuff. They consider like civic duty, and it's supposed to aid in, the stability of the society and so forth. So now, as Muslims, we establish the masjid, and that is the center of the community. Now, what do we have in regards to,
Our own civic duty.
right, in this environment, that would aid into its stability and so on and so forth?
Question regarding civic duty or civil duty, things that you have to do, court duty or certain things you're called upon for your community, your country, or your city or your borough, etc. And also the role of the masjid, etc. It's similar to what I just said, that it's impossible, logically impossible, for a Muslim to grow up in a place, raise children in a place, buy, sell, own, rent, to live in a place and be totally, absolutely removed from what's going on in that place. That's irrational. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. For I benefit from the city, I benefit from the borough, I have my house, I have my property, but I'm not willing to give anything else. That's not a good look for Islam. That's not good dawah to the non-Muslims. Say, look at you guys. You just suck everything from America, but you don't give anything back. That's haram, this is haram, that's haram. But it's haram to have that big fat house. It's a reality. Is it haram for you to have your fancy car? Is it haram for you to save all of that money in your bank account that you can never ever get in your country? Or if you're indigenous to America, that's haram, right? No. Your insurance, your children go to the dentist, that's not haram, but it's haram for you, that's a problem. And don't think that non-Muslims don't have this stance towards Muslims. So we have to be balanced, we have to be mindful. So if it's haram for a person to join the military or go to court, this and that, then it may also be haram for a person to al-hakam wa takaful, stack up and pile up money, and to be a servant of the dollar bill, and to work 7 days out of the week. How much money is going to the cause of Allah from your bank account? You understand this? It's reality. The zuhd in the dunya as well. So it's a balance. And whatever there is in that balance is going to look really bad. So with that being said, the Muslim should be involved in his or her community. Obviously, everyone's different. Those who have knowledge, those who have experience, those who have age, those who have wealth, those who are influential, are not like those who aren't. I can't get up and speak and do this and go to the mayor's office, but maybe you can. And maybe you should, and maybe I shouldn't. Everyone has their proper role. But the general concept of us just being totally removed from any type of social or civil thing, that's definitely a recipe for disaster for the Muslims. For now and also to come. Now, going to the court obviously is problematic. It's problematic. The court calling the judge your honor. It's problematic. Standing up is problematic. Would they swear upon it? But what do you do if you have to go to court? You have to what?
Abstain.
You're going to go to court. And you're going to what?
You have to abstain.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they give.
I ain't talking about that. I ain't talking about the civil or the dude. I'm talking about if you're actually on trial yourself. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
And when you don't have no option. But it's the same court. Whether it's voluntary or what? You still calling the judge what? Your honor.
Your honor, yeah.
And that person can be a filthy mushrik. Huh?
Your honor, your judge is still the same.
I don't know about that. I never seen it. Your honor, right? Yeah, okay. Say that if you want. The point is, brothers, if you have the ability to abstain, alhamdulillah. But know for sure you can run, but you can't hide. You abstain from this, there's going to be something else that's going to call you. And then something else that's going to invite you to. And there's going to be something else that you have to wiggle and fidget your way about. Everyone understand this? So at the end of the day, the Muslims, this is only the first part of the question, they should try their best to be involved with their communities as long as it's not against the Quran and the Sunnah. And they should try their best to be influential and to be positive, to make a change in their neighborhoods as long as it doesn't go against the what? Quran and Sunnah. As far as necessity, it's a necessity. Someone has to do it. Necessity has its place. And necessity is to remain in the place of necessity. It was obligatory for this brother to go. It wasn't obligatory for you to go.
Right.
He had to sacrifice himself to do this for the general good of the Muslims. It doesn't mean we all just go run to parliament and politics. There's a difference. There are details. As far as the masjid, then I think that the masjid, every masjid is different. But the masjid has a responsibility with regards to the masjid itself inside. And it has a responsibility to the masjid outside. So inside the masjid is supposed to be a school. It's supposed to be a place of refuge. It's supposed to be a place of meeting and congregating. Obviously, of course, a place of worship, ibadah, and the dhikr of Allah. That's unconditional. That's what? That's unconditional. All of these different services should be set up and based off of the masjid. We have issues with drug abuse, substance abuse, domestic abuse. Brothers come home from jail, they need jobs, they need training. That should start off in the masjid. You see what I'm saying to you? With regards to Muslim Boy Scouts, Jawala Scouts, whatever you call them, in the masjid. Home ec, training our young Muslimas to be wives and mothers and teachers. That should start off in the masjid. Children learning how to run a masjid. The baton should be passed on. And unfortunately, this is not specific to this masjid, any masjid, whatever it is, in which the authority and the leadership is holding on to every single ounce and drop of power. And they may be on their last leg. And there's no one that's a suitable successor. Something's wrong. Something is wrong with any masjid in which a person has been in for 30, 40 years and there's not a suitable successor that's in clear vision. He's pretty much the imam. I'm about to step out away and retire. So the most important thing is to train and to establish the next generation to run it properly and to deal with the social needs and the social ills, whatever it may be. Mental health, domestic abuse, whatever it may be. And then as far as the outside, then it should be dawah to the non-Muslims. That's the greatest community service. It's to give them dawah. The Muslims, the masjid, have a soup kitchen, a donation, giving out toys on the Eid, orphanage, whatever. Helping out the non-Muslims, giving them dawah as well, treating them, cleaning up the neighborhood. Graffiti, drugs, which alhamdulillah, in this community, in this masjid, we all know the well-known stories. And other communities as well. Other what? It was other cities as well. It wasn't just here in Bed-Stuy. It was many other communities in which they cleaned up the neighborhood. And they routed out the drug dealers. It's many, many neighborhoods, okay? And there are many other services that are needed. The imam of the masjid, he shouldn't be a stranger to the councilman or this person and this local person and the mayor. They should know each other. We're here as Muslims. We're citizens. Anything that we can do for the betterment of our communities, the Muslims are in the forefront. In the forefront for the betterment of our communities. It has nothing to do with religious dogma. It has nothing to do with theology and religion. As the community, this person who's making this liquor store or this whorehouse or these people are selling drugs or it's someone kidnapping children, we all have to fight against it. Everyone has to fight against it. And the Muslims should be what? In the forefront. And anything else which is beneficial and wholesome that does not go against the teachings of Kitab and Sunnah. So I think that's the most thorough and comprehensive way of looking at it. And the Muslims should not be removed and isolated from what's going on in the world. The non-Muslims should know that's where the masjid is. That's where the Muslims are. That's where the Muslims are. They're good people. They're honest people. They'll do this. A bum on the street, he should know that I can at least get $5 in the masjid. Even if he's a drunkard. He should know. Have a basic right from the Muslims. Basic. That'll be $20. Something simple and basic. Everyone understand this? Someone who's beat up, abused, battered, they should know I should have some type of help and support in the masjid. We have a problem, whatever it may be, huh? And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. That's in brief. That's a very important topic. And Allah knows best. Hopefully there's some justice on the answer. This will be our last question from the floor, and then one more from online, and then we'll stop. Fadlan akhi. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Clear.
So I want you to elaborate what constitutes this sin and what Hadith suggested that we shouldn't do or not recommend.
Clear. Jazakallahu khairan for the question. What constitutes a sin? Is it doing that which Allah tells us not to do, or the opposite, and not doing what Allah tells us to do and or His Messenger, such as having a dog, wearing silk, so on and so forth? That's a very detailed issue. In brief, a sin is, like you just said, going against the explicit commands of Allah and His Messenger, or refraining from doing the specific commands of Allah and His Messenger. In brief, as far as a general command, a general prohibition, a slight warning, then that act could be makruh. Dislike. You shouldn't do it. It's best to avoid. But the specific, explicit text that Allah hates, and the fire for one who does this, and the law has nothing to do with him, and he's free from the messenger, and he has nothing to do with the believers, and he'll be punished in his grave. And this is a punishment in the dunya, had, hudud. The specific, explicit text, then that is what constitutes something being muharram, haram. And obviously there are different levels of haram. Something being from the major sins, something being from the mubiqat, the destructive sins. So that's a detailed system that is only understood and practiced by those who are learned. Usul al-fiqh. Usul al-fiqh. But every single Muslim should have a basic understanding of this principle. Basic understanding of this principle. Alright? As far as the specifics of having a dog is haram. And having a dog is a major sin. And subhanAllah, it's quite ironic that we just mentioned this in our khutbah today. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man aqtana kalban," anyone who gets a dog, unless it's a specific type of dog for a specific reason, naqasa min amalihi aw min amalihi kulli yawmin qiratan. He will have to lose a great amount of rewards on a daily basis. And the Prophet ﷺ has also told us that in the malaikata la tadkhulu baytan fi kalbin wa surah. Angels do not enter a home in which there is a dog or a surah, whether it be an idol or whether it be an image, 2D, 3D, whatever it may be. Everyone understand this? And the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, as is narrated in Sahih Muslim, the hadith of Abu Mas'ud al-Badri radiallahu anhu, naha an thamin al-kalbi, wa an mahr al-baghi, wa an hulwan al-kahin. Or kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet forbade profit from three sources: buying or selling a dog. Naha, he forbade this. And he also forbade the profits from prostitution. And he also forbade money that you give to tarot card readers or palm readers, the palm lady, anyone who's playing with the unseen. That wealth is unlawful, it's haram. So there are many hadiths that prove that having a dog is unlawful. Buying a dog is unlawful. Selling a dog is unlawful unless it's a specific type of dog for a specific type of reason, such as hunting. Or such as a person needs a dog for necessary security. You have a car lot, you have a house far out. Or a person needs a dog to look after his sheep and his goat, to protect from wolves and things like this. As far as having a dog as a pet, whether it's a German Shepherd, Doberman Pinscher, a Rottweiler, a Poodle, a Husky, Aikido, what's the, Shih Tzu, whatever type of dog you have, a Dalmatian, whatever dog you have as a pet and as a friendly companion, then it is haram. And there are many other hadiths regarding the angels avoiding the company of those who have dogs with them. So you cannot have dogs in Islam. You clear on that? Nor is a man allowed to wear pure silk in Islam. You're not allowed to wear pure silk, as the Prophet ﷺ says, that it's unlawful for the males of this nation and lawful for the females of this nation. As far as blended silk, a small percentage of silk, silk for necessary skin condition, different story. But pure silk for the finery and the luxury, that's haram. And that's a sign of feminism. It's unlawful for a man to have. With exceptions to necessity, with exceptions to battle and warfare, things like this, in which the text clearly state, and Allah knows best. So the bottom line is, the more knowledge that you get, the more reading, the more lectures that you listen to, which are beneficial lectures, the wider your eyes will become. The what? The wider your eyes will become, you begin to see in dark, like a cat can see. Which people can barely see, you can see what? Clearly. That's the beauty of what? Knowledge. This will be our last question from online, inshallah. Malish. Atabidun. Malish. Ba'dan, inshallah. Malish. Fadal.
AW from Seattle. Assalamu alaikum. What is the proper way to make the iqamah? Is Allah repeated? If so, how many times?
Question comes from Seattle, Washington. The proper way of making the iqamah is based off of the proper way of making the event. It's a branch. And we know there are different styles of making the event. And the Prophet ﷺ had more than one mu'adhin. Bilal radiallahu anhu obviously being the most famous of them. But there were other people who made the adhan in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And sometimes in certain hadiths, they did certain things which were different. And the Prophet ﷺ acknowledged them with regards to making the adhan. Alright? So therefore, in brief, with a little bit of time that we have, there are different ways of making the adhan. The general way is always the same. But there are certain specifics, tweaking of the adhan. And obviously the iqamah is a branch of the adhan, like Hajj and Umrah. Al-Muhim, the easiest, simplest, safest way is to say Allahu Akbar, twice. To just cut everything in half. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah once. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah once. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, qad qamat as-salah, qad qamat as-salah twice. Towards the end of the Iqamah. That's the safest, easiest, simplest way. But there are different styles based off of the authentic hadiths, not the authentic text, in which the Prophet acknowledged certain ways and certain things, let alone differences of madhab, in which the Hanafis may say this, and the Jumhur or the Malikis may say something else, with regards to how many sentences are in the Adhan. Everyone understand this? How many sentences are in the Adhan? The Jumla of the Adhan. Do you say as-salatu khayru min an-nawm in the first Adhan for Fajr or the second Adhan for Fajr? How could that? Everyone understand this? And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam mubarak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad. Jazakumullahu khairan.